The lonely God. In a world where myths walked among mortals, there was a man named Elias who held more power than any being alive. His abilities were so vast, so unfathomable, that many whispered he was not merely human, but a god. With a mere thought, he could control the elements, reshape the land, and bend reality itself. But this power came at a cost. His immense strength instilled fear in everyone around him. Elias once lived among people, trying to blend in, to be a part of the world he loved. But as his powers grew, so did the distance between him and others. Friends who once laughed with him now cowered in his presence, and those he tried to help fled, terrified of what he could do. One by one, the villages he visited shut their gates, the cities turned their backs, and soon Elias found himself utterly alone. The world became a vast, empty place for him, a beautiful landscape devoid of human connection. And so Elias wandered, his footsteps echoing in the silence of his solitude. He traveled through dense forests where the trees whispered his name, across barren deserts where the sands swirled in patterns only he could see, and over towering mountains where the winds carried his sighs. Everywhere he went, the earth seemed to acknowledge his presence, but the people did not. One day, as he walked along a forgotten path through a secluded valley, Elias came upon an ancient temple. The stone walls were covered in vines, the structure worn and aged, yet it stood strong, untouched by time. Drawn by a sense of peace emanating from the temple, Elias entered. Inside, he found a single figure, an old woman who sat quietly by a small fire. She looked up as he approached, her eyes soft and kind, without a trace of fear. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, Elias felt a connection with another human being. "You've come a long way, haven't you?" the old woman said, her voice gentle. Elias nodded, unsure of what to say. "Power like yours is both a gift and a burden," she continued, as if she could see straight into his soul. "It can isolate you, make you feel like an outcast in your own world. But remember, even the mightiest beings are not meant to be alone." Elias lowered himself to the ground, sitting across from her. The woman smiled softly. "I have seen many things in my long life. I know the pain of solitude, and I know the joy of finding a place where you are accepted for who you are. But how can I be accepted when everyone fears me?" Elias's voice trembled, the weight of his loneliness pressing down on him. "Fear is born of the unknown," she replied. "Perhaps the world fears you because they do not understand you. Show them your heart, not just your power. Let them see the man beneath the god." Elias pondered her words, feeling a flicker of hope igniting within him. Could it be that simple? Could he find a way to bridge the gap between himself and the world? As the night wore on, Elias and the old woman talked until the fire burned low. She told him stories of her youth, of the people she had loved and lost. And Elias shared tales of his travels, of the beauty he had seen and the loneliness he had endured. When dawn broke, Elias felt something he hadn't felt in years, a sense of belonging, however fleeting. The old woman reached out, placing a hand on his. "Remember, you are not alone. Elias, there is always someone out there who will see you for who you truly are." With those words, Elias stood, his heart lighter than it had been in a long time. He thanked the woman and left the temple, setting out on his journey once more. But this time he walked with a new purpose. He would no longer hide in the shadows of his power. He would let the world see him not as a god, but as a man. And perhaps one day he would find a place where he truly belonged.